I'm Mr. Simpson. I'm your teacher. And you might have noticed by now, I'm not in the same room as you. And that's true. In fact, I'm not in the same country as you. I'm in the United States at the moment, waiting for my visa so that I can come join you in Portugal. And I hope that happens soon. I'm looking forward to meet you all. But until then, we are going to make the most of our current situation. I'm going to be recording videos for you so that you can watch them and learn math. And yes, it is possible to learn math while your teacher is in a different country. I believe in you, and I will do my best to help you. You can still ask me questions. I just will be in a different room, and that's okay. And because your classes are mostly in the morning, I think they're all in the morning, I likely won't be joining you live. School starts at 3 a.m. where I'm at. And as much as I want to meet you guys and talk to you in person, I don't think you'd like me at 3 a.m. So we'll stick to recordings, and then hopefully you know how to reach out via either email or Teams or to message me through ManageBack, whatever works for you. You've got ways to get a hold of me and to ask me questions if there are things that you need further clarification on. So we'll do our best, and hopefully this will only be the situation for 1 or 2 weeks. Who knows? Now, today I'm going to share with you a little bit about just this course in general. And because I'm not a video editor, I'm going to start talking really slowly because I'm multitasking. Hold on. Okay, hopefully you can see this presentation that I'm pulling up. So, welcome to 10th grade math. You made it. Great job. Here's a little representation of what we learned through 9th and 10th grade. So, 9th grade, you already did this. Even if you were at a different school, you probably learned most of these things. And the things we learn in high school math fall into 4 basic categories. Things to do with numbers, with algebra, with geometry, and then with statistics. And so this is a little roadmap of the things you would have learned in 9th grade, at least at this school. And then the things we will learn in 10th grade, all with the goal of preparing us for 11th grade, which is when you start the IB diploma program, or the other program they're starting. But for most of you, the IB diploma program. So there's what we're going to touch on this year. This is the same thing, a little bit more detail. I'm going to speed through this. For algebra, again, these are some of the basic topics we're going to cover. You might not know what all these words mean, and that's okay. Trigonometry mostly has to do with measuring things and helping with certain types of shapes, right triangles, and circles. And then statistics and probability, we'll talk a lot about how to describe different sets of numbers and how to use numbers to make decisions. So there's the very quick version. Some basic classroom policies, just in case you're unfamiliar. Here is our grading scale. We'll have 2 types of assessments. Some of them will be formative, so these might be quizzes, things like that, homework assignments, where you get a chance to try problems, and then without any sort of grade being attached to it, you can find out how you did. You get some sort of feedback. A lot of times that might be me sharing the answers with you, and then you can look yourself and see what you did right, what you did wrong, so that you can ask for help before the ones that really count, the summative assessments. So those will be like our big unit tests or projects. And you should expect one of those every month, more or less. And hopefully, the idea is that before you get to the test, you've had multiple chances to try to decide whether or not you need extra help with something and to get that help and to practice answering questions so that you are prepared when the summative assessment comes. You will be assigned homework, um, not more than 75 minutes per week. If you find that you're regularly spending more time than that outside of class, come talk to me and we'll see if we can set you up with some extra help. You do not have to spend 75 minutes per week outside of class working on this. It's all going to depend on you. With the homework, your goal is to use the homework to get whatever help you need. If you find that you're missing a lot of the questions, then you might want to come meet with me or meet with a classmate, and that might take up a good portion of the 75 minutes per week so that you can ask extra questions. Basic class expectations, um, and this should be the same for all of your courses. So if you do miss class, uh, you are responsible for the things that you weren't here for. You probably knew that, but this is the policy right here. 2 days within returning to school. Late submissions, it's going to depend on the specific assignment, but they could be penalized. I will use my best judgment. Okay, enough about class policies. Let's talk about some actual math. I know that's what you're here for. So our lesson today is going to focus on inequalities. This is an idea you've probably encountered before, whether or not you recognize the word. It's possible that everything I show you today you will have seen before. That's okay. It's possible that nothing I show you today you will have seen before. That's okay too. So I want to be able to decide what numbers are larger or smaller than other numbers, and to be able to communicate that using symbols. Here are some keywords. And one thing that's really important about mathematics is that we can use mathematics to communicate things that are true, to write down our logic using symbols, also known as symbolic logic. And as we get through some of these problems, hopefully you'll get the idea of what I mean by that. These are some basic symbols. If you've never seen these before, feel free to pause this video and jot these down. Usually I will have some printed notes for you or something that you can write on and put that page in your binder. Right now, I don't have that. The school has ordered you binders. I don't know if you have them yet as I'm recording this. So if not, find a sheet of paper you can write on and jot down some notes. If you've if you're very comfortable with all these symbols, it's okay if you decide not to write down this little set of notes. They're your notes. Hopefully you write something down as we're going through this lesson. Again, for now, just write it on a sheet of paper that is available to you. And once we have binders, we'll start getting a little bit more organized with our notes. Okay, a little task. So this is a think, pair, share task. You might have heard those words before. Just in case you haven't, it means before you start either yelling out answers or asking the person next to you, you want to take at least 30 seconds to think about this on your own silently, to start your own thought process. And then talk to the person next to you. That would be a pair. And then we'll talk about it as a class. We'll share our ideas. And that whole process will usually take about 2 minutes, depending on the task. This would be a pretty short task. Now, because I'm in another country and I'm probably in real life still asleep, the sharing part's going to be a little bit trickier. And for these lessons where I'm recording, I'm just going to talk through this after giving you a second to think. So our goal is to write some different inequalities using the set of numbers and this set of symbols. I've given you a couple of examples right here. This is something you could write. 180 is less than 200. -4 is less than 0. I guess those aren't using these numbers specifically. So let's just try one together. Maybe you said 4 squared. That's what this means. And -4. Maybe those are the two numbers you picked. Let's try to put a symbol between them. Which one's bigger? Which one's smaller? -4 is a negative number, so it's definitely smaller than +16. Now here's a question for you to think about. If n is a positive integer, and just in case you don't know what this word means, this would be a good thing to write down. Integer means a whole number. That's another way to say it. And sometimes in math, we use this little hashtag symbol, the pound sign, to represent the word number. So an integer is a whole number. It could be positive, it could be negative, it could be 0. Make sure you know that. Write it down if you need to. Back to the problem. If n is a positive integer and n is also less than 6, what are the possible values of n? Now, this problem is simple enough, but when I try to write something with inequalities, I find it valuable often to use a number line. So I'm going to put the number 6 here on the number line in whatever spot I find convenient. It doesn't matter where I put it. And then I want to write out the list of values that fit the criteria here. So n has to be a positive, it has to be an integer, aka a whole number, and it has to be less than 6. So I'm just going to work my way down from here with numbers that are less than 6, less meaning further left on the number line. Let's see, 4 would be down here, 3 would be down here. These are all whole numbers, they're all positive, and they're all smaller than 6. And then 2, and then 1, and then 0? Is 0 positive? No. And what about 6? Is 6 less than 6? No. So it's going to be the numbers in between these numbers right here. So there's a drawing of my answer. I've written all the numbers that satisfy these conditions. And here is some notation that I could use to write down that set of numbers. So the notation, if you've encountered all these ideas already, perhaps some of the notation will be a little bit new. When we write down a set of numbers in mathematics, we use these things, I call them curly brackets. There's probably a technical term for them, but these little curly brackets, and then we put the numbers inside using commas. If you do any computer coding, this sort of thing might feel familiar to you. But take a second to write that down if that notation is new to you. You can pause me if you'd like. Okay, here's another problem. Find the possible values of x. If x is an integer, there's that word again. That means a whole number. And x is... Now let's take a second to unpack this notation here. So one thing that can be helpful is if we split this up into two different sentences. We're going to make a compound sentence here. So the first sentence, -3 is less than x. And then the second sentence, x is less than or equal to +3. So we have two different conditions that x has to meet. X has to be bigger than -3, because the open mouth is pointing towards it, and x has to be smaller than or equal to positive 3, and it has to be an integer. So if I split those up into my conditions, I want all the x values that meet these three conditions. X is an integer. Here, let me use a different symbol. Negative 3 is smaller than x. And as a separate condition, x has to be smaller than or equal to positive 3. And so I want all the numbers, I want to list all the numbers that meet all three of these conditions. Now I'm going to draw a number line because that's what I like to do. You might have already answered this question about 2 minutes ago because you've already learned all this stuff, and that's okay too. You can fast forward me if you want to. That's the great thing about videos. So I know these numbers have to be essentially between 3 and negative 3. For example, negative 2. They also have to be whole numbers. So I'm only going to consider whole numbers here. Negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Notice I did not space these out evenly, and that's okay. So which numbers count in this particular set? So again, I'm going to visually draw it first and then use notation to write my answer. What about negative 3? Is negative 3 an integer? Yes. Is negative 3 less than or equal to positive 3? Is it further left on the number line? Yes, it is. Is negative 3 bigger than negative 3? No, it's equal to negative 3. So negative 3 does not fit all three of these conditions. What about negative 2? It's an integer. It is bigger than negative 3, also known as to the right on the number line. It is to the right of negative 3. It is to the left of positive 3. So negative 2 counts. So does negative 1 and 0 and 1 and 2. So I'm going to circle all of those. But what about positive 3? Does positive 3 satisfy all three of these conditions? Is positive 3 an integer? Yes. Is positive 3 bigger than or to the right of negative 3? Yes. Is positive 3 less than 3? No. But is positive 3 equal to 3? It is. So because of this equal sign, it actually satisfies that third condition. It has to be less than or equal to 3. Either way, either less than or equal to 3 counts. So 3 also satisfies all of those conditions. And here's how I would write that set. Using the curly brackets and just listing all the numbers with commas between them. Okay, now it's your turn. Take about 2 minutes and try to put the correct symbol, one of these three symbols, in each of these blanks. Again, you'll just be writing on some scratch paper because I have not been able to print things for you today. So get out some paper, put some symbols down. You can pause my video for about 2 minutes and then unpause it, and I'll show you the answers. Okay? Pause. Okay, hopefully you unpaused me now. So I'm going to show you the answers and highlight a couple that I think might have been tricky. Sometimes the negative numbers are a little bit tricky. If 6 and 5 were positive numbers, we would say that 6 is bigger than 5, and that's true. But remember, when we talk about inequalities, we want to think about the number line. So negative 6 is actually further left than negative 5. And as far as these symbols are concerned, further left means smaller, and further right means bigger, or less than, and greater than. And that is what these symbols mean. To the left on the number line or to the right on the number line. Let's see, other ones that might have been tricky. Oh yeah, those are equal to each other. Over here. Over here, maybe we can make sure you used the correct order of operations. What should I do first? Should I add 4 plus 5? Or should I multiply 5 times 2? I can't actually hear you, but I'm imagining that you all said, multiply 5 times 2 first. And that's right. We want to do the multiplication before the addition. So then we add 4 plus 10, and that gives us 14, which is why 14 is smaller than 18. Same thing here. Make sure you divide first. 22 divided by 2 is 11. So add 32 plus 11, and that's equal to 43. Okay. Here are a few more problems for you to try. And again, there's more here. So I think we're just going to go through this and let you try some practice problems on your own. Okay. Here's one I want you to take the time and to write down and try this. And when you're writing in your on just some scratch paper trying problems, please don't take the time to write all these words. You don't need to have all these words written down. We will consolidate all of this into some notes that you can put in your notebook. For now, just try to write down all the possible values of x for the following inequalities. In other words, use this notation right here. Oh, I did really great there. And list all the numbers with commas in between them. Let me try another curly bracket. Beautiful. So list out all the numbers that fit these criteria. Notice it does say integer, so we're only counting whole numbers. And then try this challenge. Again, do this on your own paper. I'm going to say take 2 minutes again, pause this video, write these down, do your thinking first before you talk to anybody else. And then I will do the sharing since I'm a video. Pause. And we're back, hopefully. So here are the lists of numbers. Again, when we have the little line underneath, that means we actually include the number that is on the end because it is equal to, in this case, -4. So here, notice we don't include the -2, but we do include the 4 in our list of numbers. And again, we're only talking about integers or whole numbers. And then the challenge. So the only real challenge here is just making sure that you know how to use the symbols. So when it says write this information as an inequality, that means use one of these symbols. So height, we're given a variable for that. So you could use the variable h, or you could use the word height. That would still be fine. So 1.4 meters or less. So here's the less than part. That's our little alligator mouth. But why do we have this little line underneath? The little line says that your height could be exactly equal to 1.4 meters, and that would be okay. That would be included. So let's read this again. If your height is 1.4 meters or less. So when we see the word is, we're going to think the height equals 1.4 meters or is less than 1.4 meters. If you're above 1.4 meters, sorry, you're too tall. And it's not safe for you to be on this ride. Go find something more age appropriate. Here we are combining multiple conditions. So we did a problem sort of like this earlier, just here. These are called compound inequalities. because there are two different inequalities stuck together like a compound sentence. 2 is less than x, and x is less than 7. That's a compound sentence or a compound inequality. Okay, take a second, answer these questions in your notes, and then you have some practice problems to work on. You might be able to finish them in class. Depends on how long I spent yapping on this video. And if not, then you can work on some of them for homework. Your goal for our homework in general is not necessarily to do every single problem. If you're struggling with it, do as much as you can and ask questions on the ones you're stuck on. If you're not struggling with it, then it won't take you very long to do all the problems. So just do them first. When I post homework problems in general, I will also post the solutions. So you might think, hey, I'm really nailing this. But then when you check the solutions, you could find some mistakes that you made. So always, always, always do as much of the homework assignment as you can first without looking at the solutions. And only use the solutions to go back and double check what you've done or what you weren't able to do because you weren't sure. Sometimes looking at the solutions will help you get unstuck. If you're stuck on a problem, you can be like, oh, that's what this question was asking me to do. But if you start by looking at the solutions, then that's just a giant spoiler for your entire learning process. You have lost your chance to learn if you just start by looking at the solutions and write them down. That's not how learning works. And it's your job to learn. I give you material, but it's up to you to learn it. And so learning that will include responsible use of the solutions and making sure that you ask questions when you get stuck. And again, I'm going to stop sharing here and let you see my face. Hi. And again, even though I'm not in the room with you, that doesn't mean you can't get questions answered. You can message me. You can say, Mr. Simpson, I'm stuck on number 3. And I already asked a couple of my classmates. They're stuck on number 3 too. Maybe I asked a teacher that I know from last year. They weren't able to help me, or I can't find anybody. Please help us with number 3. And what I can do is either just send a quick written explanation or even record a quick video going over a specific question or questions and then send those to you so that you can get the help that you need. So find, I haven't finished it yet, but wherever I put the homework, find it and work on it for the rest of class and in between classes if you need to. We're going to move on to something else next class. I appreciate you all. I hope to meet you soon. And now you can awkwardly watch me try to stop this meeting. Goodbye.